All right, happy Monday, everybody. Mike Heck here, back with another question of the day for MMA Fighting. Today's question comes from the feed from Igloo Man. He asks, what do you do with Brian Ortega following both the scale problems and that lifeless performance against Aljamain Sterling? Does he still have a job with the UFC, or does he get his walking papers? I want to preface this by saying I certainly never want to be the guy who says a fighter should lose their job or should be released. Like, I'm never happy when I say things like that. Having said that, at worst, Brian Ortega's featherweight career with the UFC has to be over, right? 2 bad weight cuts in 13 months or so, 1 fight cancellation, 1 pushing a 5-round fight to a catch weight, and on top of that, 2 very non-competitive fights. Not good at all. So you have to kind of look at this from the UFC's perspective and the questions they are asking themselves right now. Do you give Brian Ortega one more chance at lightweight? You certainly could, but if you do that, how do you proceed? Do you throw him in there with, I know he's booked with the Charles Oliveira's of the world, or what I think is more plausible, it's likely going to be against a super tough out that doesn't have a huge name yet. Maybe a guy like Grant Dawson, maybe a Joel Alvarez, a Benoit Saint-Denis, depending on how his fight goes in Paris. No matter what happened on Saturday and what has happened over the past year or so, there's still value to Brian Ortega's name, and maybe use that name to potentially put somebody else over with it. On the other end, the UFC is just smashing it business-wise. They just are. A $7+ billion streaming deal with Paramount signed, sellouts everywhere, big gates, just so much money coming in. And in today's UFC, as we have all learned, those 3 letters, UFC, they are the star of the show right now. They are selling out arenas without even announcing a fight or a main event. So do they need Brian Ortega? Absolutely not. But they don't need anybody. But like I said, his days at 145 have to be over after this whole thing. And maybe the more important question, and I hope we get some sort of answer to this soon, is how is Brian Ortega himself viewing his fighting future? He hasn't said anything yet. So it's going to be interesting to get his thoughts on the matter, his viewpoint after this, because this fight, like the Diego Lopez fight, was not close. It was not competitive. And maybe there's more to the story from his perspective. Maybe more is going on behind the scenes, maybe a bad injury. Who knows? And hopefully, like I said, we get those answers soon. So thank you for the question. Back tomorrow with another question of the day. You can submit your question to the feed on MMAfighting.com, and maybe your question will be the question. See you then.